Welcome, family, to Feast on Torah. Wherever you are around the world, you are very welcome. Have you ever noticed how often Yahawashi, the world called him Jesus, how often he asks questions? For example, who do you say that I am? What is written in the law? How do you read it? Do you believe that I am able to do this? And so forth and so on. Questions after questions. Why would the Son of the Most High Yah, who already knew every answer, every question, keep asking so many questions of us? Was he testing? Was he teaching? Or was he just revealing? Was he doing something far deeper or reaching into the hearts of those who followed him? What do you think? In this study, we're going to explore why Yahawashi, our master and teacher, used questions to open minds and awaken faith. We'll step into the scriptures and uncover why our Messiah's questions were far more than just words. So let's step into the scriptures now and uncover the powerful questions and how he asked them and how he used them, were the keys used to awaken hearts and guides souls to truth. And how it applies to us today. How does those questions that our Messiah asked the disciples way back then, does it apply to us now, today? There's an old proverb that reads, "He who asks a question is a fool for 5 minutes. He who does not ask a question remains a fool forever." Let me repeat that again. He who asks a question is a fool for 5 minutes. He who does not ask a question remains a fool forever. And this highlights the importance of asking questions. Why? It is for learning and knowledge acquisition. Now, while asking a question might temporarily expose one's lack of knowledge, it is a temporary state. Not asking questions, however, can lead to a perpetual ignorance, eternal ignorance, if we practice not asking questions. And this proverb emphasizes that it's better to overcome the fear of appearing foolish for a short time by asking a question rather than remaining ignorant indefinitely. Who wants to live in total ignorance indefinitely? I'm sure you don't. It suggests that asking questions is a crucial step in the learning process, and that seeking knowledge through questioning is essential for personal and growth and also for understanding. Now, you can tell whether a man is wise. Why? By his questions, of course. Judge a man by his questions rather by his answers. Nothing shapes our journey through life so much as the questions that we ask. The wise man, however, doesn't give the right answers, he always poses the right questions. As we see here in Matthew chapter 9, verse 27 to 28, we see Yahawashi's style of teaching and the importance of his questions. So let's read Matthew chapter 9, verse 27 to 28. When Yahawashi departed from there, two blind men followed him, crying out and saying, "Son of David, have mercy on us." And when he had come into the house, the blind men came to him. And, and Yahawashi said to them, "Do you believe?" that I am able to do this? And they said to him, Yes, Lord. In other words, yes, Master. Do you believe that I am able to do this? Yahawashi asked. Now, did he not already know their hearts? Of course he did. But his question drew out their faith into the open. It gave them the chance to demonstrate their belief with their own mouths, their own words. And after they answered, their eyes were open. Family, questions are mirrors. They show us what is hidden inside us. Now, Yahawashi Mashiach was and is a master teacher. And one of his teaching methods was the inductive style, which means that he asked a lot of questions. So we will be asking a lot of questions also of the verses that are under study. Now, teachers and leaders are supposed to be full of answers, but you'd never see these characteristics from listening to our Messiah when he teaches. Surprisingly, he was full of questions, not answers. Yahushua asks questions all the time when he's teaching and during conversations, and he made a habit of it. And maybe you should too. In Mark's Gospel, there are 67 recorded conversations taking place, and Yahushua asked 50 questions in those 67 accounts. Imagine that. 67 conversations, and he asked 50 questions while they were having a conversation. If you or I should meet our Messiah tomorrow, he's more likely to ask you a question rather than to tell you something. And sometimes we end up in trouble, family. Why? Because we did not ask the right questions. And when we do ask questions, we do not ask the right ones. If Yahushua is asking questions, don't you think then we should be doing the same? He's speaking because it is important. And if he thinks questions are important, so should we. Example: there are 5 stages in Yahushua's example given in this style of teaching. In Matthew chapter 16, verse 13, we see the observational questions. And it goes something like this: Who do people say that the Son of Man is? And they replied, Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. Now, the background to this question is it is very important to know where Yahushua was when he asked that particular questions. He was about 25 miles northeast of the Sea of Galilee, where he could be alone with his disciples. And number two, Yahushua chose the region of Caesarea Philippi, whose people were non-Judeans. And the history of Caesarea Philippi makes an interesting setting for the question he asked his disciples. Now, the location was outside the domain of Herod Antipas. He was ruler of Galilee. He ordered the execution of John the Baptist and had his head removed. Oh yes, very nice man. Now, Caesarea Philippi was a place in the shadow of ancient gods. The area was scattered with Syrian Baal worship. And the Greek travelers, finding the landscape was like their homeland, established this area of worship to the Pan god, which is a Greek god of nature. Field, Greek god for the field, the forest, mountains, flocks, and shepherds. That's why they worship Pan, Pan. There was a great temple of white marble built to the godhead of Caesar. It had been built by Herod the Great. At least 14 temples have been identified. Now, look where Yahawashi was standing when he asked the question, who do people say that the Son of Man is? Look at the location. Number one, he was standing in an area littered with the temples of the Syrian gods. He was standing in a place where the Greek gods looked down. He stood in a place where the most important river in Judaism sprang to life. He stood in a place where the white marble splendor of the home of Caesar, worshipped, dominated the landscape, and is compelling to the eyes. It was as if our Messiah deliberately set himself against the setting of the world's religion in all their splendor and demanded to be compared with them. With great monuments, temples, and relics behind him, he posed the question, who do people say that the Son of Man is? And remember the location when he asked that question. This is called a window question. It is open-ended. This type of questioning encouraged detailed, elaborate responses from the person answering rather than a simple yes or a no, or a limited choice. These questions invite the respondent to share their thoughts, share their opinions and feelings, leading to more qualitative and in-depth information. Now, Yahawashi could have asked, do they know who I am? Simple. He could have asked that question, which is known as a pin question, and the result would be no or yes. Now, this kind of question does not need much thinking. As I said, it requires only a yes or a no. And also known as closed-ended question is a question that offers a limited set of predetermined answers, typically required a yes or a no response. Okay? Now, the original Greek in Matthew 16:13 is more specific and means, who do the common people say that I am? That's, if you read it in the Greek, that's how it should read. Who do the common people say that I am? He does not ask for the opinion of the scribes, notice. He does not ask the opinions of the Pharisees or the priests, but of the common, ordinary people whom the Pharisees despised. So the question is, why the scribes and Pharisees despised the common people? Why? And the only thing the Pharisees looked at was the people's sin. And so they had certain contempt for the common people. They saw Yahawashi associating with these common people and saw them cheering him on and loving him. They couldn't stand it because they were envious and suspicious of his popularity. They were also prejudiced against Yahawashi and said that he was a deceiver and that he was also in league with Satan, the Hebrew for Asatan. Now, Mark chapter 3, verse 22 and 23, he asked them, how can Satan cast out Satan? Let's read. Mark chapter 3, let's read from verse 22. The scribes who came down from Jerusalem were saying, he is possessed by Beelzebub, Hasatan, and he's driving out the demons by the power of the ruler of the demons. So he called them to himself and spoke to them in parables. How can Satan drive out Satan? Note, it is good as people of faith to know what people are thinking, but not to the extent that we endorse their wrong thinking. So we must learn to ask the right questions so that we do not unknowingly support their wrong philosophy. Now, why did Yahawashi ask this loaded question? Who do people say that the Son of Man is? It was not because he was ignorant of what the people thought and what was saying about him, but wants to engage his disciples to think carefully before answering. And some of us listening to this today, sometimes we need to slow down and think carefully before you give a response to a question. Look at the wisdom of our Messiah. He knew and understood that after the disciples were going up and down among the common people for so long, that the people would freely speak their minds to whom? To the disciples and not to him. That is wisdom right there. That is why we should be at our Master's feet learning his ways. Now, Matthew chapter 16, verse 14. And what did they reply? Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. Now, the people were right in part of their answer because all three identification had one thing in common. Elijah, John the Baptist, and Jeremiah, they were all prophets. And so the people concluded that our Messiah was a prophetic figure. So there were three groups of answers: Elijah, John the Baptist, and Jeremiah to the people. To the people, Yahawashi Mashiach was just a prophet. And please note, it is possible for us to we can have good thoughts of our Messiah and yet not the right ones, or a high opinion of him and yet not high enough. So the question again we need to be asking, why Yahawashi did not tell them plainly that he was the Messiah? Why didn't he just make it simple for them? Let's read John 10, verse 24 to 25. The Jews who were gathered around him, saying, how long will you keep us in suspense? If you are the Messiah, tell us plainly. Yahawashi answered them, I have told you so, yet you do not believe me. You do not trust me and rely on me. The very works that I do by the power of my Father and in my Father's name bear witness concerning me. They are my credentials and evidence in support concerning me. Now, Yahushua did not plainly spell it out to them who he was, but left people to conclude who he is from his works. And we see the same attitude in people today, still denying the existence of our King, despite all the evidence of creation before them 24/7, yet they still deny that there is our Messiah and the existence of the God that we serve. Which brings me to three categories of people. And you will meet them when you are teaching or preaching or sharing the gospel with them. And the disciples would have come across them as well. The first group, I call them I don't care group. They struggle with, why is this relevant to me? And they say things like, I don't care, whatever. Then we have the second group, I don't know group. They are looking for facts. What they're saying, I don't know this yet. I need more information. Then we have the third group, I don't believe group, always looking for demonstration of signs, drama, and excitement. And even when they see the signs, they still don't believe. Why? Because believing is a choice. You care or you don't care. You either know or you don't know. You either believe or you don't believe. But either one of those three examples I've just given, it all comes down to choice. And John chapter 10, verse 25, Yahawashi answered them and he said, I have told you so, yet you do not believe me. You do not trust me and rely on me. And yet we have believers today, family, who believe that they have salvation, yet they do not trust or rely on Yah for anything else. because they spend more time telling you about what the devil have done instead of telling you about what Yah have done for them. So the follow-up question in Matthew chapter 16, verse 15, who do you say I am? Yahawashi asks the disciples a question that has concrete, observable answers. Peter answered it correctly. Matthew chapter 16, verse 16. And Simon Peter answered, Kepha, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living Elohim. And here we see Peter's answers were short, but was full of truth. Let me repeat, Peter's answer was short, but is full of truth, giving three categories of the Messiah identity. What did he say? Number one, you are the Messiah, one. The Son, two. Of the living Elohim, three. The term living Elohim distinguish our God from idols that are dead, lifeless blocks made from wood or stones. Our Creator is the source of life. Our Creator is not from wood or stone. He is a living Elohim. So the confirmation is when Peter answered the question correctly, Yahawashi exclaimed that he is correct and confirmed what he said was true in verse 17. And Matthew 16:17 said, Yahawashi replied, Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And the question, how did the Father reveal to Peter the identity of the Messiah? Answer, Peter drew the correct conclusion from evidence available to all of us in John chapter 5, verse 31. I'm reading from the Amplified. If I alone testify about myself, my testimony is not valid. And John chapter 5, verse 39 reads, You search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and these are they which testify of me. So secondly, Yah must have all the glory of it. Yah must have all the glory. Why? Here he says, for flesh and blood have not revealed it to you. So it was not Peter's wit or his man's intellect or by the instruction and information of others. This revelation came to Peter, did not spring from nature or from education, but from the Father who is in heaven. Matthew 16, verse 17. And the question again, what one should be asking, what is the insight to Peter's answer? The believer's faith is revealed. Faith is a revealed faith which roots stems from heaven and is given by the inspiration of the Most High, not from learned men such as theologians, philosophers, and politicians, but straight from the word of Yah. Yahawashi takes this as a teaching time so that his disciples learn that faith isn't by reasoning a theory or logical analysis of available facts, no, or emotional experience. It is the active work of the Father in heaven. And we see empowerment here coming from Matthew chapter 16, verse 18. And it says, I tell you, that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. And what does it mean by the rock? On this truth I will build my church. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Verse 19. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. And then he ordered his disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. And finally, Yahawashi used the lessons that the disciples learned through this interaction to empower them to use the knowledge and authority to defy the gates of hell without fear of its demons because of the unlimited power of Yah. That's right, our God, our Yah, has unlimited power. Yah is the same yesterday, today, and forever, as mentioned in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 8. And his desire is for his people to rise up so he can empower us through the studying of his word with his help and with his Holy Spirit, because he wants us to begin right where we are, right where you are, for his glory. And it was crucial to use the questions as an opportunity in getting the disciples to a sincere confession of their faith in him without any ifs or buts. And the same method applies to you and I today. Why would the Son of Man, the Most High Yah, who already knows every answer, keep asking you so many questions? Because he wants you to think carefully about the answers and learn from his work in you, and to conclude who he is from his work in the world. There will be a part two of this subject, why our Messiah asked so many questions and during his time on earth here in human flesh. And that's something we need to go through. So, in closing, if this message has stirred something in you, take a moment to reflect on the questions Yahawashi asked. Write them down, pray over them, ask yourself, am I asking the right questions about such and such? Let the Spirit guide you and let the Spirit answer you, okay? He will give you the answers. And if you found this teaching helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you will know when the next lesson is uploaded from the Word. May peace and wisdom be with you as you continue your journey with Abba Yah. Shalom.